Hi, friends, and welcome to Self Meets Soul, a podcast where we discuss how to discover what sets your soul on fire and modern ways to integrate spirituality into your daily life. My name is Juliana, and today, for our first episode of 2025, we're going to be talking about the law of attraction. So, before I get into that, I just want to say you're probably noticing some changes. So, if you follow Self Meets Soul on Instagram, you may have seen that I announced that I'm not going to be releasing podcast episodes bi-weekly anymore. I'm just going to be doing it once a month. And that decision really was just an intuitive one, to be quite honest. Like towards, I don't know, maybe October, November, I would say, I was starting to feel just like an energetic pull to do something else and just kind of away from sharing my voice in this space bi-weekly. And anyone who's listening to this who is also a creator, artist, content person of some sort, you probably understand what this feeling is. And so I toggled with this decision for a little bit and then decided like, okay, I'm going to practice what I preach, and this is something that I feel like is right for me in this moment. So that is what I'm going to do. So for 2025, I'm still going to be releasing an episode once a month, still going to have guests from time to time, but it also would be really beneficial to follow Self Meets Soul on Instagram, because I'll be posting a reel throughout the month, as well as just some kind of like info, readily, easily readable type thing that goes along with the podcast episode, to kind of get you guys some more of that content throughout the month as well. So all of that to say is that I appreciate you. I appreciate you for sticking with me and just still joining, Second thing I wanted to mention is this is the first time I'm recording an episode in my new apartment. I moved last month and I have yet to record here, and I gotta say, you guys, the audio, oh, there goes my heat. Let me go turn it off real quick. Okay, how ironic that happened. But all of that to say is that the acoustics in this place are not the best. There's no carpet at all in this apartment, so I can't even really like go in my bedroom because everything is not more so of an echo, although you may notice that you kind of hear more here, but also, like, the windows in my patio door have absolutely, and I mean absolutely, zero soundproofness to it, like, at all. So, unfortunately, no matter where you are in this apartment, you can hear the cars, and I live on, like, a busier road. Not super busy, but busy enough. Unfortunately, you're probably going to hear like the white noise of cars driving by in the background. I'm going to try my best to edit it out, but that's kind of just what we're working with here. So thought I would mention that in advance. Okay, now jumping into the law of attraction. So I didn't even really want to record this right now. A couple days ago, I kind of had like the desire to record after I had read a lot about the law of attraction, so I was feeling inspired. And this morning, I've kind of just had some things like not turn out how I wanted, and just some frustrations. We let out the little girl tear moment and called our mom upset. You guys know how that goes, maybe not, but anyways, I realized as I've been in this negative space this morning that God, like, now that I know about the law of attraction, and now that I am just consciously thinking of it every day, I completely, like, I feel like being in a negative space and being annoyed about stuff and being sad and just being whatever insert negative emotion is so much less enjoyable now that I am so conscious of it. And you may be thinking, like, who wants to be sad? Who wants to be annoyed? Like, you don't ever want that feeling. But I want you to really think about this. Have you ever noticed that sometimes you just want to wallow in your own misery? You just want to just sit in your annoyance, and you just want to throw a little baby fit. Like, if that has ever happened to you, once you know and start actively practicing the law of attraction, that feeling is going to go away, and you're going to want to shift your mindset as soon as possible. So I have been in that space all of this morning, and even talking about it now, I can already feel like my energy shifting. So just wanted to throw that little caveat into there, that sometimes when you are not feeling at your best, that is when you should start to call in that positive energy, even when you don't feel like it, because it can be an instant mood shifter. So how did I get into law of attraction, and why am I just now talking about it? So I started reading The Secret. I think Rhonda Byrne is the author. And this is like one of the spirituality 101, like beginner books that a lot of people read. And I bought this book 2 years ago, and I tried to read it. And for some reason, I literally just couldn't. I was like, I don't really feel like reading this right now. And I've mentioned in past episodes how, like, when I first really got into spirituality, you know, in 2020, 2021, 2019, actually, that was when I was really only reading self-help, spirituality, like those types of books. Wasn't reading any fiction at all. And then once I picked up fiction, I kind of went away from these types of books. And really, I am still reading like a lot of fiction. However, this new year, I have felt like a call to read more about this stuff. Like, I want to read about tarot. I want to read about numerology. I want to read about crystals and like witchcraft and all of that stuff I'm kind of curious about right now. So I'm leaning into this, and I thought, okay, before I go and drive to my local spiritual shop and pick out a new book, I should start with The Secret, because I still have not read that. And it has been pivotal for me and has kept me engaged, especially because, you know, it's a new year. And in the new year, typically people are more focused. They are more attuned to what they want to call in. And that is the same for me. Like, I have been really focused on what I want to manifest this year. I bought a new manifestation journal, and I've been pairing it with reading The Secret every day and just picking up those lessons. So this episode is going to be me simplifying. I highly suggest you still read this book, but simplifying the law of attraction. So simply put, the law of attraction states that positive or negative thoughts will bring to you positive or negative experiences, things, people, events, so on and so forth. So what you think will become. And there may be some push or pull with that. You may think, oh, yeah, of course, obviously. And you're right. Like, the law of attraction really is that simple. You may also think, how does that doesn't make sense. How can me thinking negatively bring in negative experiences? And before I get into this, I just want to state, think about a time where you were having something go wrong, or you were just having a day, and you were like, why is everything against me today? Like, you noticed that bad things or inconvenient things kept happening to you. I know, like, a good example that I think everyone's experienced once is when you're just not having a good day and you're annoyed and you're moving around fast, so you break your nail, your shirt gets stuck on the hanger of the door and like the door handle and pulls you back. Or you trip, or you stub your toe. All of those things are resulting, believe it or not, from a thought that you have had and you called in that experience. Now, I know that sounds controversial as heck, but this is a law of attraction. So you want to think about your thoughts as having frequencies, because they actually do. When people put on that little brain cap neuro, I'm totally like not getting the name right on this, but you can measure thoughts. You can measure brain activity, right? There's different frequencies in different areas of the brains that will light up on a scan, depending on literally what you are thinking or what you are experiencing. So thoughts do have frequencies, just like a TV. So how a TV works is there are different channels, and each channel has a frequency. And when you tune into that channel, you are tuned in to that frequency. The only way to change what it is that you are seeing and to change the frequency is to change the channel. So, thoughts are like TV channels. The only way to change the frequency of your thoughts is to change what you are thinking. So, in other words, like how a certain frequency produces the images that you're seeing on your TV, thoughts become things. And you can even look at it like this, like you have a thought, that thought produces a feeling, whether you are conscious of what that feeling is or not. It does produce a feeling. That feeling typically produces some type of action or inaction, and then that's where the events follow. The events of your life happen based on the actions or non-actions that you take. So a good way to start to notice, before you even can change your thought and practice the law of attraction, because ideally, right, you want to attract positive things into your life, therefore, you need to have positive thoughts. Sometimes it is super hard for us to even realize what it is that we're thinking. Like, think about the human brain. Humans have many, many thousands and thousands of thoughts a day. Many of them we're not even aware of. They're subconscious, right? But there is a way to start to notice more of what it is that you're thinking. And the first step in doing that is to start paying attention to how you feel. For all my baddies who have gone to therapy, this will probably sound familiar to you. I know it's something that my therapist brought to my attention pretty early on, is to identify how it is that I'm feeling. And a lot of the times that's her first question. She'll ask me, like, I want to do a check-in, like, how is it that you're feeling? How have you been feeling lately? And I notice, like, a lot of times I struggled even identifying that, right? And a lot of that requires pause and just paying more attention, listening to how you're feeling. So once you pay attention to how you're feeling, that's going to tell you what you are thinking on a conscious and subconscious level. So I'll give you an example of this from this morning, because I did this in real time, literally like 2 hours ago. Okay, so I paid my friend a portion of my Airbnb because we were going on a trip, and the trip is next week. And I paid my portion, whatever, and then this morning we're figuring out the car situation and what times we can all leave, who's driving, who's carpooling with who, all that type of stuff. And I realized very quickly, because we voted times, I have something to do for yoga, a training, on the Sunday we're coming back, and I have to be back in Phoenix by 11:30, and we're going to Palm Springs. It's like a 3.5, 4 hour drive to this Airbnb. And whatever, our day of departure, that's fine, that's set. We all agree on the same thing. But coming back was the issue, because no one wanted to wake up early to go with me back to Phoenix, right? Because I would have to get up before 8. We would have to leave Palm Springs before 8 a.m. So I was like, okay, well, I have to leave early. And so the girl who's organizing the trip was like, oh, well, you probably should drive one of the cars. And that makes total sense. Logically, I knew that. But what I was feeling like, I'm a little annoyed about that. It was logical, but I was feeling annoyed about that. And immediately I'm like, oh, I noticed this, I'm feeling annoyed. And so I was like, what am I thinking about? Why am I annoyed? I'm annoyed because I was hoping I wouldn't have to drive, because I just drove to California 3 weeks ago. And so I was trying to avoid that again. Okay. That's why I was feeling that way. That was my thought. My thought was, I didn't feel like driving. That was the first instance, okay? Then as we're talking more, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot about the time difference. I'm going to have to leave at 6:30 in the morning. And rightfully so. No one wants to leave that early. I wouldn't. If I didn't have to, right? I don't want to wake up that early, and I do have to. So I was like, oh my God, now I have to leave at 6:30 a.m. and no one wants to do that. So I'm probably, not only do I have to drive, but now I'm probably going to have to drive by myself because no one wants to do that. Rightfully so. And then it happens so quickly, right? Usually these emotions, they come on so fast, so strong. I started feeling stressed immediately. I texted the girl who's organizing it all, and I was like, I'm probably going to have to take the L and just lose my money on the Airbnb. And, she's like, why? And I knew how I was feeling. And so I'm like, yeah, why am I saying this? Why do I feel this way? And all of my thoughts that were kind of subconscious, they became very conscious. Why am I stressed? Why am I wanting to pull out of this trip? Because I don't want to have to drive that early. I don't want to have to drive that early by myself and then go do this training for yoga that's 4 hours long. I'm going to feel rushed, knowing me. I'm going to be stressed about making there on time. Like, I realized where my thoughts were going. My thoughts were in this anxious state, this future projection, which something I do a lot, of this is why this is not going to work. And I call my mom like I usually do when I'm upset about something and I need a safe space. And I tell her, like, I'm frustrated. I wanted to go on this trip. Like, it's not the end of the world to lose this money, but, like, that money could have gone somewhere else. I'm not made of money. Notice, like, all of this downward spiral and negative thoughts that are occurring and causing me to feel worked up. And then I start tearing up, right? My heart is pounding and I'm like upset and I'm vocalizing that to her. I'm like, I'm just upset. I'm annoyed. I'm frustrated. And one thing I also do want to try to work on, which is so difficult in the moment, but is to not identify with feelings. Instead of saying I am frustrated, say I'm feeling frustrated, which my friend Morgan does so well. It's literally insane. We actually were talking about this last night because I was like, oh my God, do you realize, like, you identify your feelings very often, you communicate them, and you, like, don't identify with them. Like, you don't claim them like that. You just say, I'm feeling this way. Anyways, good tidbit, something to try to work on in your personal practice. But yeah, I call my mom and I'm just so upset and I'm tearing up and I'm getting more frustrated. But because I have been thinking so much about the law of attraction and the power of thoughts, I was like, this is not productive for me to be thinking this way or feeling this way. Like, I'm making myself get more upset. And my mom, she's not into, like, spirituality or anything like that really, but she did say to me, like, is it worth it? It's really not that big of a deal to lose the money when it comes to you knowing how you typically are and you're going to be stressed. Like, no need to get upset about it. Just think about, like, the peace of mind that you'll get from not feeling rushed all weekend. That's going to be more worth it. And I'm like, yeah, you're totally right. And because I am so conscious about the law of attraction right now, I knew immediately there was a thought in my head that was like, this is counterproductive. And I'm probably calling in more negative things right now because I'm projecting and putting out negative frequencies. And the first step to changing mindset and changing your habits is becoming aware of it. So it was almost empowering that I was aware of this and it immediately came to mind, even when I'm frustrated, that it was still there. But of course, the next step is actively changing it. So that's why I'm here right now, recording this episode right now instead of, like, later or at a later date, because I'm trying actively to change my thoughts. Now I'm putting out this frequency of thinking about the law of attraction and spirituality and how I like, teaching people about these things. So I'm changing my thoughts, which are changing my frequency and attracting more positive things to me. But when you're first starting out with this, you might not have that awareness right away. Like, you might not be able to pull yourself out of what you're feeling and what you're thinking in that moment because it's new and it takes practice, right? So another tip to rewire your thoughts to change it to a more positive frequency is to bring to mind happy memories or things to come that you're like happy or excited about. You can have like a little, like think about it as a tool in your mental toolbox. What is a memory that always brings just some positive feelings to you or makes you feel a good way? Like, I don't know, I would say for me, one of them is like turning the corner when I'm walking in Paris and it was literally freezing and it was night and seeing the Eiffel Tower lit up for the first time. Like, that is an experience I'll never forget. And I like immediately cried when I saw it. And it's a powerful memory of a happy time. Okay, so take a moment, think about what those happy memories are for you, or maybe there's something you're really excited about. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you're getting married this year and that's something you're so excited about. Shift your thoughts to think about something like that. If you can briefly catch yourself in the trap of negative thoughts, and maybe you can't pull yourself out of it by saying, oh, you know, I'm going to bring more negative things to me. If you just notice for a brief second, try to shift it into pulling out that tool. What's my happy memory? What's my happy thing to come? Now, I mentioned earlier in this episode how I really have been focused on the law of attraction because I'm also focusing on manifesting, like taking it really seriously. And a lot of times people do use the law of attraction to help them manifest something. Maybe not, like you don't have to. Maybe you just want to bring in more positive energy, positive people, positive experiences. Then obviously these tips I've given so far can help you as well. But if you are using the law of attraction to manifest something into your life, there's ways to do that as well. One way is to avoid thinking in negation. So using negative thoughts. And this is funny to me because when I was a teacher, this was one of the things I learned in school that stuck with me. Like, you see a kid running in the hallway, you should not say, don't run. You should say, walk, please. Because the brain, although yes, we can comprehend what don't run means, it's not as effective. There's some psychology, some science behind this. The brain doesn't like to think about things as far as don't do this or avoid doing this. It prefers like actionable, just like verbs, just making things simplified, right? And that kind of same aspect when you are using the law of attraction to help you manifest and you're trying to work on changing those thoughts, those frequencies that you're putting out. Again, avoid thinking in negation. So let's say you don't want to go to work. You want to do something else with your day. I don't know, whatever it might be. Instead of thinking, oh, I don't want to go to work today. I don't want to go to work today. Try to change that to get rid of the don't, the negative word in there. Change it instead to, my boss will tell me to stay home today. My boss will say I can stay home today. Okay, try to reword it. It's something small, but something that has also been shown to be effective when using the law of attraction. Another thing is that when you are manifesting, and I tried to just give an example right there, doing so in the present tense. So if you're calling in money, I will have $10,000 by the end of the year. Instead of saying I will, change it to I am or I have. I have received $10,000 by December. I have received $10,000 by such and such. So using the present tense, acting as if it's already yours. That is a really key part in the law of attraction, because our brain, the really interesting thing about it is that it cannot tell between what is real and what's not. Okay, I'm going to say that again. It can't tell between what is real and what's not. That means that when you, and for my anxiety girlies and boys, my baddies out there, this is why anxiety is a thing. You are future projecting about something that hasn't even happened. Your brain isn't realizing, girl, this hasn't happened yet. We're not going to freak out about this. It doesn't know. As far as the brain is aware, this has already happened. So it's panicking, and then it causes you to feel a certain way, and now, boom, you're in this heightened state of emotions about something that's not even real right now. The flip side of that is you can use that to your advantage. So when you are manifesting in the present tense and acting as if you already have something, eventually that frequency that you are putting out into the universe is going to come back to you as that manifestation. So let's say you want to be a best-selling author. When you're manifesting and you're saying it out loud or you're writing it down, I am a best-selling fiction novelist. I am a best-selling fiction novelist. And you start to say things as if you already are, eventually that will come back to you. That is the law of attraction, right? So typically that involves scripting. So basically writing these things out, visualizing it. Okay, I am a best-selling fictional novelist. Visualizing yourself going to book signings, visualizing yourself shaking the hand of the publicist that's giving you the book deal. That all uses the law of attraction to help that thing come into fruition. I recently learned about the 369 method, and I have been using that so far. I think maybe it's my second week now doing it. And that uses scripting and visualization and law of attraction to help whatever it is that you want to manifest. I'm not going to share what my manifestation is. I think that's like a personal thing between me and the universe right now. But all the 369 method is, if you haven't heard of it, is writing down your affirmation 3 times in the morning, 6 times midday, and 9 times in the evening, ideally before bed. So if I'm still using that same example of I am a best-selling fiction novelist, I would write that 3 times when I wake up, 6 times at some point midday, and 9 times before I go to bed. Now, I got into a whole TikTok deep dive of this and saw like how other people said using the 369 method and practicing law of attraction has helped their manifestations come true. Obviously, I've only been doing mine for like 2 weeks, so I don't know yet. Apparently, the best time frame is at least 30 days, which is around the same time it takes to build a habit. But I will just leave that there. So that is another tool that you can use when you are practicing the law of attraction. Now, while I was on that TikTok deep dive, I also saw someone comment, and I kind of like laughed about this. How can I act like I have a car? And I kind of died because I was like picturing someone like sitting in a chair and like pretending to drive a wheel or whatever. But there actually is some other information that I got from a different podcast from this girl named Mia. She's the founder of the Activations app, which is like a affirmations app basically. But she talked about how when you're struggling to think in the present tense, so when you're struggling to use that affirmation like it's already yours, try to live in the space of feeling like that thing that you want is just about to come to fruition. So that'll probably involve some inspired action, right? So, okay, yeah, you can't really act like you have a car right now because you're not driving it. But maybe let's say you are driving a friend's car or a family member's car. So maybe it's not yours, but you could pretend like it's yours in that moment. Or you could take steps to bring that car into your field. So you're looking at things on Carvana. You're looking at different cars on Carvana or whatever. You see a car that you like. Picture yourself buying that car. Picture yourself getting into it or test driving it for the first time. So living in that space like it is just about to happen can also help with the law of attraction. And so after you know what you want to call in, after you make it very clear what it is and specific, what it is that you want to call in, and you are scripting, visualizing, changing the frequency of your thoughts to align with having that thing or that experience or whatever it is, the last step is to let go and trust the universe. Yes, it's so important to be specific about what it is that you want to attract, because then, you'll be more certain about it when it comes through. You'll know that that's the thing. However, You don't want to get like into the nitty gritty of how exactly it's going to happen to you, okay? Say you want to attract your life partner. Maybe not getting so nitty gritty about like, I'm going to be in the non-dairy aisle at Whole Foods and they're going to reach for the same oat milk as me. Like, you can be specific about how that person makes you feel, how they might look. However, try not to make so much control or take so much control over the outcome, okay? Trust that the universe is going to put this thing that you want to attract into your field at the right time. Try not to put so much time pressure on it. Sure, going back to that money example, maybe you want to get that amount of money by the end of the year. Okay, but also be open to the fact that it may come instead of by the end of December, it may come by the end of January or February. Let go of the attachment to any outcome and just trust that the law of attraction will work and the universe will work to put this thing when it is absolutely right. And that's part of divine timing, right? Then when the manifestation comes through, acknowledge it. Thank the universe. I can't remember what book I was reading. I think it might have been Signs. Basically, it's a whole book about like signs that people get from their spirit guides and how to recognize it and stuff like that. And one thing that really stuck with me from that book was to acknowledge that you received the sign and thank your spirit guides, thank the universe, whatever, for sending it to you and for communicating it to you. Because having gratitude is another huge part of the law of attraction. Being grateful for receiving those messages will only bring more to you. Well, friends, that's all that I have for you today. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with someone in your life. You never know who might resonate with it. Chat with you later.